We're looking at General Allen. We're looking at ISIS czar Allen, watching him closely. Join us, please, in keeping all eyes on Allen. We are now getting to make it or break it time for Allen. That is the biggest headline I think we can generate out of Washington, D.C. right now. Allen has now got approximately 2 weekends in order to take advantage of optimum conditions for a schemer and an intriguer such as Allen, of course, is. That is to say, he's actually got more. He's got a couple of weekends left. He's actually got 3. He's down to 3 weekends. We would be talking here about the weekend of August 22nd to 23rd, 29th to 30th, and then September 5th to 6th. 3 weekends when Allen must strike. He wants to strike when Obama is out of town. That might even rule out the last of these weekends, the 5th and the 6th. Obama might already be back in town. So let's make it 2 to 3 weekends. Allen's modus operandi: wait until the president is out of town, conspire with his subversive, seditious network, and then call up Erdogan, call up the Saudis in Riyadh, call up other schemers. We need to develop the entire list, to be sure. And then strike, do something like the lunatic and obviously repudiated no-fly zone and safe haven for terrorists in northern Syria. If Allen fails to act over the next 2 to 3 late summer, lazy, hazy weekends, then Allen's goose could be cooked. Because in the month of September, all eyes will turn to the Iran nuclear accord. Allen and Patriot and their clique are determined to prevent this. But of course, Patriot is pretending to do this, not coming out as an open enemy, but I think trying to bore from within. The neocon faction, in other words, the neocon faction among disgruntled, venal, and retired generals, now represented by Patriot. On these 3 weekends, Allen must act, because otherwise, in September, we will have the vote on the Iran nuclear accord. It will be voted down by the reactionary warmonger Republicans. Obama will veto that, and then the warmonger and reactionary forces will attempt to override the veto. That will include Chucky Schumer, perhaps cheered on by his pornographic niece. And it will also now include Menendez, a guy who really should have been in jail already, indicted, guilty of what? Bribery, taking gifts. So it looks like the Iran nuclear accord might well go through. There were some remarks by Mitch McConnell, right? Mitch McConnell, the Republican Senate leader, who seemed to say that Obama has a good chance of getting it through. Now, watch out for him. He's a snake. He's a fox. And this could be some kind of complicated cyber strategy. Anyway, keep working on getting the Iran nuclear accord passed. But when you intervene, make sure you say, fire Allen. Because the way in which the Iran nuclear accord might most readily be defeated is if the war situation explodes. In other words, Erdogan needs a war. Right now, the polls are showing for a November election in Turkey, which we'll talk about in a minute. If there's a November election in Turkey, then it's likely that Erdogan will lose. So what Erdogan is doing right now, calling early elections, is a desperation ploy. He needs false flag. How about Allen? We just went through it. If we get to September and nothing has happened, Allen is also in big trouble. So there's another person who would benefit from some kind of altercation, conflagration, or catastrophic event. If Allen doesn't act now, he might soon find himself at the end of September out on his ear. In other words, as soon as that Iran nuclear accord goes through, I would think that Allen's blackmail and extortion strategy will fall to the ground, and he will become eminently expendable in the bureaucratic wars. Now, let's look at the situation before which this all plays out. This morning, the Israelis have attacked Syria. And the interesting thing about this is the Israeli missiles were fired at the Golan Heights, the Syrian-controlled part. It's all part of Syria, remember. It has been held since 1967 by the Israelis. The Israelis claim they killed some Palestinian militants who were shooting rockets at them, but it was 10:30 a.m. local time, 5 civilians killed, according to the Syrian side, and then a heavy bombardment with these heavy howitzers that the Israelis like to play around with on that front. Now, it's the amazing thing about this is in favor of ISIS. You can see exactly how this works. The picture that has emerged during the week is the following. Last Saturday, the German defense minister, Ursula von der Leyen, had announced that Germany was pulling its Patriot missile batteries out of southern Turkey, taking them away from Erdogan. And the word was from von der Leyen, Christian Democrat, right, tool of Merkel, but nevertheless, von der Leyen says, hey, we helped you against Syria, Assad, but now there's really no threat from Assad, and you seem to be attacking the Kurds. The implication being, we don't want to be part of that, right? You're helping ISIS by getting rid of the most capable force that is opposing ISIS. Then on Sunday of last week, the United States also announced the pullout of Patriot missile batteries from southern Turkey. There are also reports that Spain had a Patriot missile battery there and has pulled that out. So within a very short time, varying in each one of these cases, right? It's not immediate, but it takes some weeks or perhaps even months. These Patriot missile batteries will be removed, and it may be that they're already demobilized, that they're already being packed up for the trip back to the respective countries. Now, those Patriots can reach out a couple of hundred miles over Syrian territory, and they have provided a kind of air umbrella for the ISIS terrorists, especially along that 68-mile corridor where the Kurds do not control the airspace, right? The border on the ground. So it means that from now on, the Syrian Arab Air Force will be able to attack concentrations of ISIS terrorists near the Turkish border, because those Patriot missile batteries, the main deterrent, will be gone. Now, at the same time, and this was yesterday, Thursday the 20th, we get the word from Moscow that Putin has delivered 6 MiG-31 jet fighters to Damascus. Now, this was a stealth operation. This was done secretly. It was not announced. It was a surprise. I think the State Department, Admiral Kirby, of course, has moved from the Pentagon to Foggy Bottom, started whining about it. But this gives us a whole new situation, as we will explore in just a minute on World Crisis Radio. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. So the concept is that 2 countries and possibly 3, U.S., Germany, Spain, question mark on the Spanish one, but looks that they're part of it too, are pulling their Patriot missile batteries out of southern Turkey. Now, those are highly capable surface-to-air missiles. They can engage airplanes. They can engage ballistic missiles, medium range, short range, things like this. They have a certain capability. It has been impossible for the Syrian Air Force to clobber the ISIS terrorist butchers that have been sheltering right up against the Turkish border, actually sometimes also protected by Turkish artillery under Erdogan. It has been impossible to attack those ISIS concentrations from the air. Now, once the Patriots are gone, it becomes possible. The problem only was then, and the second problem, was that the Syrian Air Force did not have capable planes, up-to-date, modern, high-performance jet aircraft that could fly low along that border. The question now is, the jihadis have been busy, right? They captured some of this stuff from Iraq when the Saudis bribed the Iraqi generals a year ago. The jihadis have some kind of anti-aircraft defense. And the way you can foil that is by flying really low and really fast. So lo and behold, we now have 6 MiG-31 jet interceptors of Soviet and Russian manufacture. These are highly capable. They are, for example, the fastest air superiority jet fighter in the world, the fastest. Maybe they're not ahead on everything, but certainly on that they are. And this is, on the whole, one of the most formidable jet aircraft that can be found anywhere in the world. Now, that combination spells doom for ISIS. If this is carried out, ISIS can be thoroughly clobbered. There's no air defense protecting them from Turkish soil. And they've got the Syrian Air Force has got these airplanes that can actually hit them. And isn't it funny that at just this point, the Israelis decide to attack Assad? It's a diversion, right? It's a diversionary attack, Entlastungsangriff, in order to relieve pressure that otherwise would build up rather quickly on ISIS. And, of course, the idiocy of most of the national public radio debates about this stuff, talking about U.S. troops, boots on the ground, all idiocy. Close the Turkish-Syrian border. Or better yet, let the Kurds close the Turkish-Syrian border. ISIS will die. They will wither on the vine. Their logistical supply lines, their rear echelon will be completely cut off, and that will be the end of them. And of course, ISIS has been, perhaps as if sensing their quite possible imminent demise, they've been on a orgy, a kind of a atrocity spree. They've been attacked. They destroyed a Christian monastery at Mar Elian. They've been stepping up their beheadings. They beheaded an archaeologist, a distinguished archaeologist at the Palmyra site. Their rape economy has been exposed. They're sending AIDS positive, HIV positive kamikazes into the Western world. So it's an orgy of horrors. And if you want to thank somebody for it, it's Allen. So the point is, focus on Allen, focus on the White House on the 22nd and 23rd. Watch this guy like a hawk. If you're inside the government bureaucracy, do what you can to make sure that this guy can't make a move. Now, our slogan, hashtag Fire Allen for ISIS. Fire Allen for ISIS. Erdogan, a desperation ploy. His puppet and ideologue, right, the neo-Ottoman ideologue Davutoglu, the former foreign minister, has been unable to form a government, right? The nationalists will not support the Islamists under Erdogan and Davutoglu. Remember, Turkish nationalism is serious. This is Ataturk. This is one of the top figures of the 20th century, a nation builder of the first order. So those people have some kind of a serious heritage, whatever they are today. So they have refused to join a coalition dominated by the Islamists. Now, the Nationalist Party in Turkey would like to try to form a government. But of course, Erdogan and Davutoglu want to keep all power in their hands. So they've broken with tradition, quite possibly broken with legality, hard to judge from afar. They've called an election for November, and they say they are going to keep power in the meantime. In other words, there will be no allowing the opposition to form a government. And it's quite possible that even in the caretaker government that Davutoglu will probably represent, they may try to exclude the opposition from that too. So it's going to be total AK Erdogan Muslim Brotherhood domination over this coming election. Now, the polls show that the HDP party, the Kurdish party, which did so well with 13% in the election back in June, they could gain even more. One of the things that we'll have to point out later in the broadcast, the Turkish pound is now at a 3-year low. And in a country where lots of stuff is imported, that's bad, because that means your prices on all imported goods, right? All your Louis Vuitton and all this, that is now going up. So that's a very bad recipe for Erdogan. The British have opened up diplomatic relations with Iran for the first time since, 1978. And we've got the Russian-Chinese naval drills going on, I believe, in the Far East. So this is the situation. With the Israelis undertaking this bombardment and bombing of Syria in the Golan area, you can see how every imperialist is attempting to do everything possible to prop up ISIS, to prevent this situation now from playing itself out to its proper logic. The Turkish press, the Hurriyet, I think this means the Republic, but the Hurriyet is freaking out completely. They're whining, complaining, and God knows what. So it's this situation. If you look at tarpley.net, which I hope you do regularly, several times a week, we now have new stuff up there every day. Our headline is Convergence of Putin and Obama Against Allen and Erdogan. Moscow delivers 6 MiG-31 Foxhound aircraft to the Assad government. This can spell the doom of ISIS. Fire Allen for ISIS. We're looking at General Allen. We're looking at ISIS czar Allen, watching him closely. Join us, please, in keeping all eyes on Allen. We are now getting to make it or break it time for Allen. That is the biggest headline I think we can generate out of Washington, D.C. right now. Allen has now got approximately 2 weekends in order to take advantage of optimum conditions for a schemer and an intriguer such as Allen, of course, is. That is to say, he's actually got more. He's got a couple of weekends left. He's actually got 3. He's down to 3 weekends. We would be talking here about the weekend of August 22nd to 23rd, 29th to 30th, and then September 5th to 6th. 3 weekends when Allen must strike. He wants to strike when Obama is out of town. That might even rule out the last of these weekends, the 5th and the 6th. Obama might already be back in town. So let's make it 2 to 3 weekends. Allen's modus operandi in northern Syria. If Allen fails to act over the next 2 to 3 late summer, lazy, hazy weekends, then Allen's goose could be cooked. Because in the month of September, all eyes will turn to the Iran nuclear accord. Allen and Patriot and their clique are determined to prevent this. But of course, Patriot is wait until the president is out of town, conspire with his subversive, seditious network, and then call up Erdogan, call up the Saudis in Riyadh, call up other schemers. We need to develop the entire list, to be sure. And then strike, do something like the lunatic and obviously repudiated no-fly zone and safe haven for terrorists